Hello guys. Okay, so let's make sure we have at least two color highlighters. If you need to pause this video, you can do that so everybody can get at least two different color highlighters. If you have one and your partner has a different color, then y'all can maybe just share, okay? So this is gonna be notes on list of pairs of angles. So we are going to have pairs, which means two, right, of angles. And we're going to explore the relationships between them because they come with specific properties. One thing that I'm going to note, aside from your homework, might be a good idea to make some note cards. Okay, to memorize the properties for these angles. So what I want you to do on the far right is draw this picture. Draw a vertical line and then a horizontal line that crosses it like that, kind of like a coordinate plane. Then I want you to put the point A up here, D down here. If you remember, we have to put arrows on our angles because the lines keep going, F, and then C, and then from here to there, I want you to go ahead and put a B out here. The point in the middle is a G. And then that line also extends going down straight. And that's the point E. So you end up having a lot of angles from those lines. And then what I want you to put is a rectangle here, which we know that indicates 90 degrees. We talked about 90-degree angles, acute and obtuse, 2 days ago, okay? So we're going to start with our first special pair of angles. And they are going to be called adjacent angles. Adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other. And a tip for these is that they share a ray. Remember, the ray is a little dot with a line on the other side and the arrow. So they have to be next to each other. What I want you to see is, for example, and don't color code this part yet. I'm just showing you which ones are next to each other. It would be angle FGA is next to angle CGA, for example. Okay, so you don't need to color code that part just yet. Angle FGA and angle CGA. So now, why did I choose that? Or why couldn't I choose, instead of CGA, I could have also used BGA. That also works. As long as, if you can notice, the part that they're sharing is this right here called AG, right? That's the part that's going to be connecting them. So it could also be angle FGA and angle BGA. We can look at some of the bottom ones too. We can say angle EFD and angle D. Why did I say F? EFD. That's not an angle, guys. It's angle EGD. EGD and angle DGC. Okay, those bottom ones. So these you can either make a note card for the angles or just go back and study these for your notes when you're doing your homework and when you're taking your test, okay? So next, we're going to talk about congruent angles. So congruent angles are angles that have equal measure. So whatever one angle is, the other one has to have the same measure. And I forgot to put a box here that's also 90 degrees. Sorry. So in this case, you see the both angles that are 90 degrees. You would say, well, angle AGC is congruent to, and the symbol we're going to use is this equal sign with the squiggly line on the top. This symbol means congruent. Angle AGC is congruent to angle DGC. Why? Well, because we know they're both 90 degrees, right? They're both 90 degrees. Okay. Next, we're going to go to what are called complementary angles, and I'm going to write them a specific way. Complementary angles. And I like to go ahead and use this as the little curve for the number 9. Complementary angles. So complementary angles are two angles whose measure my pen add up to 90 degrees. This is a right angle, right? Together, they make a right angle. So what I like to tell students is you think about this as the little loop for 90. You also can think when someone gives you a compliment, it makes you feel right. And right means 90 degrees, right? So that's a way to also try to remember that. So you're looking for two angles that make a right angle. If you look up here, you don't have to color code this part yet. I'll tell you which one. If you look up here, this 90 degree angle here is made up by two angles. What two angles? Well, you can say angle AGB next to angle BGC makes up the whole angle. Remember, we talked about a part plus a part equals a whole. So together, they made up that 90 degree angle. So we're going to say angle AGB and angle BGC, right? All right. Next, we're going to go to supplementary angles, and I like to write it a specific way for a reason. Supplementary angles. I like for students to think of the S as it's almost forming an 8. Why? Well, supplementary angles are two angles whose measure add up to 180 degrees, okay? So they have to add up to 180 degrees. Hence, I want you to think about the 8 for supplementary. So if I look at my picture, right, I want you to go ahead and color code this part for me, because students get confused when it comes to supplementary for some reason. They don't have to be next to each other, but in this picture, they happen to be next to each other. So for example, you have 90 and 90 is 180. So you would have AGC and then angle DGC, because together 90 plus 90 is 180. So that's the part that I want you to leave colored. AGC and DGC, angle AGC and angle DGC. Okay, that's going to be your reference picture. You're going to work on those. Let me stop.